Second day national seminar of the importance of archaeology in decoding Indian history, jointly organized by C.P. Ramaswamy Institute of Indological Research and Indian Council of Historical Research. I now request Director Nandita Krishna for giving a warm welcome to the dignitaries, research scholar and students.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear students. I'm so happy that so many students have been sitting here the whole of yesterday and today, because these lectures are really for you. You know, we are all passé. I don't think I can ever go to an archaeological site again. We still have young people like Dr. Shinde, Dr. Sharda, but it's limited, the number of young people. So you all have to take it up. And yesterday you saw how Dr. Muhammad made it into I don't know where he is. He's here. I've covered him with this. How he has made it into a detective story. I mean, it was hardly archaeology. It could have been something done by the police. But of course, he was an archaeologist and it was an archaeological story. Similarly, Dr. Pandit spoke about urban archaeology. And that, I think, is a very challenging topic because there's so much beneath us, you know. Madras hasn't sprung out of nowhere. I still call it Madras. It hasn't sprung out of nowhere. There was so much earlier, so much history. And yesterday, I don't know who, I think Dr. Cheran mentioned the place names. The place names tell us a history of their own. You mentioned it, Dr. Pandit, in Mumbai, how the place names told you a history. In Chennai also, each area, like Alvar Pet, we are in Alvar Pet. That is where Thirumangai Alvar, one of the Alvars of Vaishnavism, is supposed to have lived. Now, who has done any research on that? Nobody. And so on. It goes on like that. I come from Kanchipuram, and I think that's the most challenging place because it has a continuous history of more than 2,000 years. And we know that Huan Sang has said that there was a stupa. So I'm hoping one of you young people will one day find that stupa which once existed, and so on. So there's so much because so little has been done, and the main reason for there being so little is because of the lack of funds and funding. But yesterday Dr. Pandit showed us how he did crowdfunding and then he got the metro. I think it's a wonderful idea. The metro is digging up the whole of Chennai. We can't find our way anywhere. But in Mumbai, wherever they were digging, he went there and he looked for clues. He looked for archaeological evidence. I think that was a wonderful idea, and that's something we all can pick up, and you all can pick up because you are more into social media than an older generation. So it's not just hearing about what all they have done, but also learning and seeing how we can apply it. So I'd like to thank all our scholars for being here this morning, and I look forward to a fascinating day. Thank you.
I now invite Dr. Sathyabhama Badhreenath, former Joint Director General, ASI, New Delhi. She will be presenting her lecture on recent excavation at Mamallapuram and Saluvankuppam and its historical impact. It is an honor, it's an absolute honor to introduce a distinguished scholar and an esteemed archaeologist, Dr. Sathyabhama Badhreenath. With a remarkable career spanning over 3 decades in the Archaeological Survey of India, she retired as the Joint Director General, having played a pivotal role in the preservation and documentation of India's rich heritage. She also served as the Director of the National Gallery of Modern Art, Bangalore, from 2015 to 2018, further contributing to the field of art and culture. Dr. Badhreenath's academic journey is equally commendable. She graduated from Stella Maris College, Chennai, pursued her post-graduation at the University of Madras, and completed a graduation diploma in archaeology from the School of Archaeology, New Delhi. Her doctoral research at Deccan College, Pune, focused on the management of living heritage temples, a crucial area in the study of cultural heritage conservation. Her contribution to Indian archaeology are immense. She has directed excavation at Saluvankuppam, Sathyabhama in Kanchipuram district, and actively participated in excavation at historically significant sites like Mamallapuram, Zinji, and Adichanallur. Her expertise also extends to epigraphy, where she has been closely associated with the inscriptions of the great living Chola temples, Rani Ki Vav, Lal Killa, and Nalanda, monuments recognized as World Heritage Site. Beyond excavations and epigraphy, Dr. Badhreenath has played a significant role in national mission on monuments in antiquity, meticulously documenting antiquities and heritage sites to safeguard India's cultural treasure for future generations. I now invite Ma'am, Dr. Sathyabhama Badhreenath.
Morning, everybody. Mrs. Dr. Nandita Krishna, the chairperson of the C.P. Ramsayar Institute of Indological Research, my colleagues, Dr. K.K. Mohammed, Dr. Prabhakar, Professor Vasant Shinde, Professor Seran, and the other scholars and students. I wish you a very good morning. I will be failing in my duty if I do not express my deep gratitude to Dr. Nandita Krishna for having given me this opportunity to present a small presentation on the excavations at Mamallapuram and Saluvankuppam. In the first place, I wouldn't like to call these as excavations. I would like to term them as scientific debris clearance, because as you all know, it's very difficult to maintain a stratigraphy in the coastal areas, especially in sandy soil. But persevering efforts have led to far-reaching discoveries, both at Mamallapuram as well as at Saluvankuppam. I think anybody who thinks of going to Mamallapuram, whether he's a scholar, whether he's a tourist, whether he's a student, or whoever he may be, will always be having a sense of, expectation as to what he will discover the next time he visits the place. At least I've always been having that idea whenever I go to Mamallapuram, and I've been going there very often. Because each time you go there, you find something new that adds to your existing knowledge of the subject. So actually here, it is as I think Professor K.R. Srinivasan had put it across, it is an experimental laboratory as far as Pallava art and architecture is concerned. And I think more emphasis was laid on architecture and art than religion and its accompaniments which came in subsequently. Because when you take the Pallava period in particular, especially during this up to 9th century, your agamic injunctions or any of your standard principles of iconometry, all that has not become standardized. It is still developing, it is still evolving. So you can see the free expression of the artist in most of these places. So that's a very important lesson as far as Mahabalipuram is concerned. This port of Mahabalipuram or Mamallapuram was the port city of the Pallavas, and probably it extended on the northern extremity up to Saluvankuppam. The whole area, if you just notice very carefully, the whole area is covered with sand dunes amidst rocky outcrops. And the talented artistic Pallava craftsmen judiciously used all these outcrops in creating artistic wonders. You can see cave temples, you can see brass reliefs, of course you can see structural temples as well as the rathas. As far as Saluvankuppam is concerned, there are only two cave temples. There is a Tiger's Cave and the Athirana Chanda Mantapa, and of course we have added the Subramania temple. So this is just an idea of the Google map of the coastal area. So this is the first reference that you come across to the port of the Pallavas is by Thirumangai Alvar. He refers to it as Kadal Mallai. You get reference to it even in the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea and also with Ptolemy. The Sangam works also talks about it, and this Neer Petru is supposed to be a port town near Kanchipuram, and Rajamanikkanar has identified it to be Kadal Mallai. Subsequently, Bhutatalvar also mentions about Mallai as it already been in existence as a place of pilgrimage. Then Nandivarman III, his work Nandi Kalambakam mentions about this port city. Then the Chola period inscriptions record the transactions of the foreign and Indian merchants. So now I'm not going into the nitty-gritties of the... Oh, sorry. Everybody is aware of the Shore Temple complex, so I have not given a picture of the Shore Temple. Of course, you can see it in the background. What we actually found here, this is also when we are trying to, one another thing is, I think right from the time of Longhurst and Alexandria of the early 20th century, people have been removing the sand dunes and discovering a lot of structures. So this is a continuous process as far as the Archaeological Survey of India is concerned. They are doing this continuously, and it is also a part of the conservation activities that are being carried out by the ASI. And in one such activity during the 90s, we came across a small structure on the northern side of the Shore Temple complex, and this what we see. It is an elliptical structure. It is subterranean. It has. It is not on the same level as the present Shore Temple. And what we see here is an elliptical structure with a miniature shrine. This miniature shrine has all the moldings of a perfect temple, right from the Adhisthana to the Bitti to the Vimana. It has a small Garbhagriha also. And then you see this Bhuvaraha, and you see a small well. And this well has sweet potable water. That's very, very intriguing, but still. So then this is the close view of the Varaha. Such a type of zoomorphic Varaha is not noticed. Generally you see Bhuvaraha, you see it in the same cave temples. But here, the head of the Varaha is as if it's burrowing into the earth. That's the impression it gives. It's actually, when you see it from the rear side, it's very difficult to get a rear photograph because, the angle is not perfect. So on the rear side, the legs are spread out as if it's ready to burrow into the earth. And here you can see all the marine life also. Some fish and some baby patterns. There are two important aspects as far as this Varaha is concerned. One, Varaha is supposed to be the symbol of the Chalukyas. So, and this incidentally is also carries the inscriptions of Narasimhavarman II Rajasimha. 4 titles of his are mentioned here. Rajasimha, Sribara, then Rananjaya, and one more is I have forgotten this last title. One more title is there. So 4 title inscriptions of Rajasimha are there. So this could also represent as if the subjugation of the Chalukyas is one interpretation that is given. Subjugation of the Chalukyas as a result of which Varaha has been represented. And it's also trying to, the other interpretation is trying to retrieve the Mother Earth. Actually, this Varaha was found in nearly 16 to 20 pieces. It was totally damaged, and we were able to reconstruct and put all the pieces together. The thing about this elliptical complex, actually this base of this miniature shrine, this is the Abhicharika Vishnu, which is there wedged between the 2 shore temples. And this is the Mahishasura Mardini, this thing which is there on the southern side of the shore temple. All the 3 are on the same axial line, on the same, bedrock. All these 3 structures. Incidentally, in front, that is towards the western side, as we enter the shore temple, there is a well on the left-hand side, and just as adjacent to the well, when we were just laying the garden, when we were looking at it, we came across a flooring, a stone flooring. We couldn't expose it fully because we would be upsetting the entire space. So we came across a stone flooring, and when we just had a measurement taken of the depth of that flooring also, we came to the conclusion that all the 4 are on the same level. So a lot more probing is required at shore temples. And without, now with so much of scientific techniques and scientific development, I'm sure we will be able to do some ground penetrating surveys and at least understand what are the structures which need still to be exposed. This one. This one. That's one deer. Headless. It's lying here. That's also part of the bedrock. So all this has to be, all these pieces, the dots have to be tied. This is one more enigmatic structure that we exposed. Actually, it is a step structure. We have exposed 5 steps. 2 more steps we could see, but the water table level is so high, we were not able to go down any further. We do not know how many more steps are there. And the purpose of this structure is also a matter of debate, because each one gives its own interpretation. But actually this step lead to the shore temple. So maybe this thing could be that the sea was much further away than what we see today, and it could be towards a shore temple. Probably shore temple, in and around the shore temple you get a very shallow water, might have been at that moment of time. But again, unless and until further research is done, one will not be able to really truly understand what was the purpose of this thing. But the only thing is, there is hardly any binding material. You see all these, the steps, perfect wedge-shaped locking system is there. So each two slabs are locked with this wedge-shaped stone. So locking is perfect. Hardly we did any pointing work there. Continuous this thing. And then this is a later chunk. We do not know from where this chunk had come. This is only this one chunk we have come across. Nothing else we have come across. So again, to interpret what this could mean is very difficult. And another one more wall we have seen here. So probably some penetrating surveys should help us to understand what are the other remaining structures which are available, and probably then we could do some specific analysis, specific tests to find out what is actually beneath the shore temple, if at all there is anything. But considering the fact that this the step structure goes more or less to the level of the shore temple complex, and the shore in the previous slide where I had shown you these three structures which are all a part of the bedrock, definitely the Abhicharika Vishnu, which is wedged between the two temples, is earlier than the shore temple. These two structures can also be dated to the same period. That is, it should be pre-Rajasimha. Now I shift to Saluvankuppam. Saluvankuppam is today around 4 kilometers north of Mamallapuram. And this is the boulder these are some of the archival images from the ASI. This is of course the Tiger's Cave, which is still very much there. And this is the Atirana Chanda Mantapa. Even as late as the early 20th century, Alexander here only mentions that he had seen a lot of sand dunes, and he has mentioned about the Tiger's Cave, but no mention is made of this boulder. So obviously even at that time this boulder was totally buried in sand. But in around the 1940s, on the back of this boulder, there is a 37-line inscription of Kulothunga III, which mentions about the Subramania temple and what efforts could be taken to safeguard the temple, or rather to ensure that the temple is continuously under worship, because it was obviously it was not having sufficient funds for its management. So they were wanting, the inscription mentions that how the lands could be salvaged and how temple lands could be salvaged so that worship can be continued in this temple. And it mentions about a Subramania temple. Incidentally, when you look at this boulder, when you stand right behind the boulder, it gives you the impression that this is like a seated elephant. It's just conjecture. Around 2004, just before the tsunami, this was the portion of the boulder that was exposed, because even though the inscription was copied in 1940, again it got buried. And only about 20 centimeters of sand had got eroded during the tsunami. And that 20 centimeters of erosion exposed this inscription of Krishna III, Rashtrakuta Krishna III. That was, it's dated to his 4th regnal year. And it is the earliest inscription of Rashtrakuta. Now found, earlier inscription was belonging to his 5th regnal year. This is the earliest inscription so far discovered of Krishna III. This also incidentally mentions about the grant that is being made to the Subramania temple. So we had two references to a Subramania temple. And this started, a process of investigation to find out where the location of the Subramania temple could be. So this is the inscription of Kulothunga III. It's a very long 37-line inscription. This is a 2-line inscription of Krishna III. The excavation was incidentally started by Mr. Satyamurthy, and subsequent to his retirement, I continued with this excavation. So initially there was nearly 2 meters of sandy deposit. Once they started removing the sandy deposit, we came across a lot of strewn stone members all over the place. The thing about this temple is the boulder, the rock boulder was always made an integral part of the temple complex. So the rock boulder was given a lot of importance. Just adjacent to the rock boulder, on the northern side, construction activity had started. And this is the Garbhagriha portion. And one more thing, as far as this temple is concerned, there have been so much of activities to ensure that the temple survived over a period of time that it was very difficult to identify which portion belonged to which period and what to expose and which portion to expose and which portion to retain. It's very tricky, this thing. So this is the central portion, the Garbhagriha portion. And this thick wall, this brick wall, core wall, all this is part of the first phase of activity. Whether it was actually a Garbhagriha or not, that itself is a first question mark. Because till the end, we have not found any deity at all. No idol has been found, only one hand has been found. That's all. That too only palm, not even the full hand. Only one palm has been found, and with that it's very difficult to identify Subramania or anything for that matter. So this is the plan of this thing. This is the boulder. This is that brick structure. And this is the Garbhagriha portion. See, what has happened is, here you will be seeing two phases of activity. I will show you another slide where I will be able to see the first phase. It is having one course of bricks, then it has 4 courses of laterite, and then it has 23 courses of brick once again. And this thing was, the layers were muram, sand, brick bats, then stone flakes, and finally over it was a very thin layer of granite. See, now if you see, I don't know how, this picture may be better. These are the 4 laterite layers. Beneath this laterite layer, you have one layer of brick, single layer of brick. And then here you have paved brick flooring. Some of these bricks are not full bricks also, they are broken bricks also, but it's a flooring. And beneath it, at least to a depth of 2 feet, I could go down without disturbing the flooring. We just removed 2 bricks and we went down. Till 2 feet we were able to find a cushion of river sand. So there was a cushion of river sand over which there was 1 layer of brick, and over that was 4 layers of laterite. And over this 4 layers of laterite you had 4 layers of brick only in the first place, in the first phase of activity. So that was the height of the temple. And here also, the first 2 layers, 2.5 layers of the laterite was not plastered. Only 1.5 layers of the laterite and the 4 layers of brick were plastered. It was plastered with lime plaster. And beneath, the pointing was only clay pointing. This gives you a better idea of the entire structure. It was very difficult to maintain stratigraphy throughout the site, in the entire site, but only in this core of the Garbhagriha we were able to maintain, some sort of a stratigraphy. And this is the stratigraphy that we came across. The other portion. So this Garbhagriha portion I am showing you from various angles, having the boulder as the center. This is, here the boulder is behind. So this is the Garbhagriha portion. This is the initial phase of activity of the first phase of activity. The second phase of activity, again it will, the wall will, size of the wall, width of the wall increases. This is from the eastern side, that is from the sea side. You see the boulder here behind. This is from the southeastern corner and this is from the southwestern corner. Actually, this is the wall of the Garbhagriha from the east. I had mentioned about the laterite courses. Then you come across this plastered area, and this is the next phase of activity. And here we came across this conical jar, portion of a conical jar. So now this temple is facing north. Generally, as per Agamas, temples face east. But of course, there is always an exception to the temple of Subramania. Subramania temples can always face north also, in addition to facing east. So that's one thing. Just the adjacent to the completion of that laterite course, you find 2 small stone. We took it as door jambs, and this is how the entrance to the temple must have been from here. This must have been the temple, the Garbhagriha portion, probably at this level, and you have the boulder behind. And this boulder also has not been quarried now. The boulder has already been chipped off, quarried, whatever, or naturally flaked much earlier. The last period of activity which could be seen on the boulder is wedge marks of the Vijayanagara period. So obviously the boulder had already weathered much earlier itself, maybe before the temple could come into being. So this gives you a small bird's eye view of the temple during the first phase of activity. This is the Garbhagriha, and this is the portion. Just to continue from there, now I would like to get into the second phase of activity. Totally, I have identified 4 phases of activity. The second phase of activity, this area of the Garbhagriha is slightly, it's expanded, so that, it facilitates better movement. And this prakara is added to the, cloister mantapa is added to the temple on the eastern western and the southern sides. Now, even in this cloister mantapa, you get two phases of activity. In the first phase of activity, it's the height of the thing is only about 1.8 meters, the height of the cloister, and then you get pillar bases. Sometimes you get pillars, all broken. Sometimes you get pillar bases, and then the inner portion of the cloister mantapa is paved with granite, and here the whole thing is paved with lime plaster. It's plastered with lime plaster, but it is not available everywhere continuously. This is on the eastern side. This is on the western side. It's very difficult to understand this temple complex because, I was going there every other day. I used to spend half a day every day to trying to find out what structure could have come first, what structure could have come second, and what could have been the actual activity. Very small changes only had taken place in the second phase. The Garbhagriha was extended, the cloister mantapa was added, a prakara wall was also added, and lateral entry of, now till then we had an entry right from the north, now lateral entry was given both from the east as well as from the west. So obviously people could enter from the east. Now slowly, again probably they are getting into this agamic mold. So they want to enter from the east and come out through the west. This is some sort of an interpretation. No idea whether it is right or wrong. Yeah. So this is a small extension. This is the cloister mantapa which is there. Then in this phase they start, I will show you the picture. This phase there is a entrance which is also being provided from the southern side, apart from the northern side. This small, I will show you the stone spear which has got added, and then one adhisthana is also added. This shows the entrance, the earlier one which I was talking to you about. This is the activity for the southern side. You get packing of boulders. The portion of the cloister mantapa is disturbed to ensure the passageway, entrance is given on the southern side, all with boulder packing, available boulders, available brick bats, available stone bricks, broken bricks, brick jelly. They have converted it, and they have given the entrance from the southern side. This gives you a much better picture of the whole thing. This is the inscription, another inscription of Krishna the third Rashtrakuta. So in the second phase of activity, you should forget that there exists something like this now. These are the pillar bases which has obviously a small mukhamantapa must have been in place, and they enter through this mukhamantapa, enter the temple. The steps would have been on either side and they would have gone around. Must have gone around like that. Right on the northern side, you come across this Balipita with all the Adhisthana moldings. And like how we see in all these Rajasimha period temples, you get this thing, what is it, a base layer of granite over which you get all the brick moldings. Such a type of Balipita is available in the Mukundanayana temple itself at Mamallapuram. Up to here is the second phase of activity of the Balipita. In the third phase, because this will be removed shortly. So in the third phase of activity, this entire Balipita is covered with sand or closed, and only this serves as the Balipita. Just this stone pieces. This is the ring well which has been, two ring wells were been exposed on either side of the Balipita. Nearly 23 to 26 courses, and here also you are getting sweet water. It's only about 50 meters from the sea, but here also you are getting sweet water, potable water. Now, this is the Garbhagraha portion. This portion was probably added during the second phase of activity, and this is the one which was added in the third phase of activity when all this was totally closed and and completely converted into stone. This is the steps which were leading from the western side. What happens in the third phase of activity is these steps also get closed, and the flooring comes above this. Above this, the flooring is laid. This is the flooring of the last phase of activity. Very complicated structure. Of course, the highlight of the excavation was the discovery of this whale, and it was on a small brick platform. It's about 1.6 meters in height. It is a hexagonal pillar piece type. It has a small bulbous body at here, and then with a Padma and a Urdu Padma, it emerges as a veil of Subramanya. Now, the theory is, even everybody is mentioning this to be the Murugan temple, but actually speaking, we don't get any reference here to Murugan. The earliest inscription that we get here is of Nandivarman II of his 12th regnal year, which is also the first inscription which mentions about the place Mamallapuram. That is the earliest inscription to mention the place Mamallapuram. And even there it is mentioned only as Subramanya temple. Now, if it's only again a matter of interpretation, to consider this to be the veil, as you come across the portrayal of a veil as a veil kotam in the Sangam literature. There is no image which is worshipped, but the veil gets worshipped as Subramanya, as veil kotam. You get references to that. But there is one small, I am not very convinced about this veil kotam and considering it to be a veil of the Sangam period. If you see the rathas at Mamallapuram, all the rathas are generally considered to be wooden replicas converted into stone. You see all the remnants of the woodwork, especially if you look at Bhima Ratha or anything like that. So, traditions and was still available, or rather survived for some time. So in the same way, the concept of a veil, because stone veil nobody has found. It's always been only a metal veil. Stone veil has now only in Arvelam at Goa. You come across a stone veil in the cave temple. Very similar to that, but of course the height is much smaller than this. And one more thing we need to understand, that this temple complex in the early period, during, say, probably, if at all we are taking it to Narasimhavarman the first, things were not very concretized at that time, but by the time of Narasimhavarman the second, it was a period of great peace and tranquility as far as the Pallava region is concerned. But most activity of this temple takes place only during the later Pallavas. You get inscriptions of Nandivarman II, only one inscription. You get inscriptions of Nripatungavarman, one inscription, that too broken inscription. Then you get inscriptions of Dantivarman and you get two inscriptions of Kampavarman. So you are getting only later period later Pallava inscriptions. You are not getting the middle or the core Pallavas. You are not getting those inscriptions. And during the period of the later Pallavas, when we look at the Tondaimandalam region, it's in a state of flux as far as political activity is concerned. It is just not the Pallavas alone who were there. There is so much of activity of the Rashtrakutas trying to impose themselves on Tondaimandalam, the Gangas, the Pandyas and the Varaguna. In fact, Varaguna has been camping in this Tondaimandalam area itself for nearly 2 years. So there could be also some influence of these three, that is from Rashtrakutas and Gangas from Karnataka. And the Pandyas were always following most of the, artistic and cultural affiliations of the Rashtrakutas and the Chalukyas only. More, they were not so much influenced by the Pallavas. Pallavas were getting influenced by Satavahanas. But Pandyas were getting influenced only by, mostly by Chalukyas and the Rashtrakutas. So this could also be an influence of the, Pandyas and the Rashtrakutas. A lot more study needs to be done before any conclusive decision, conclusion could be arrived at. So in the third phase of activity, there is complete chaotic condition. Now the whole temple, till then everything was in a brick, very little bit of stone, only for the pillars. And incidentally, the pillars which we encountered here, they were also hexagonal pillars with a flat on either side, and the hexagon on the other, four sides were, at 45-degree angle. Such type of pillars can only be seen at Kuram temple. And sometimes in this Virataneshwara temple at Tirutani, we are able to see it, but of course it has been incorporated into a modern mantapa. So only in these two places you are still seeing remnants of these type of pillars. Now whatever pillars, whatever granite activity was already available, that has been reused. See, if you can see here, all the granite pillars have been reused to raise the floor of the temple complex. So the entire temple complex rises to nearly 1.3 meters during the last phase of activity, when it is getting converted totally into stone. So this is the last phase. Now, if you are able to recapitulate, this is the Garbhagriha. This was the first period of activity. Now it has extended so much. There was a small Ardha Mantapa in the second phase of activity. Now you are getting a huge Ardha Mantapa here. Along with the Ardha Mantapa, you are getting a Maha Mantapa. When this Maha Mantapa is completely constructed, this Cloister Mantapa is totally buried again. No more Cloister Mantapa. So and then you get a independent Mukha Mantapa in front. So you get a Maha Mantapa, you get an Ardha Mantapa, you get a Garbhagriha, you get an Ardha Mantapa, you get a Maha Mantapa, and you get a Mukha Mantapa. All this is closed. Nothing is available. So it gets back into its original like any other Chola temple, say by the 13th century, 10th to 13th century, things have become, it gets converted into stone. Now this is the story of the veil. which is the most important object of this excavation. At the time of initial exposing, see, totally covered with sand, so much of sand. Only so much of the veil was actually, if you see, this is the portion of the veil which was seen in the last phase of activity. This is the height of the veil. In the second phase, that is in the second 2B phase, you get, this is a broken inscription of Dantivarman, and this is a broken inscription of Rajaraja the First. And this is the veil. That is the second 2B. In 2A, you see more of this. You see the entire veil. Where it has been the flooring of the Garbhagraha, the floor of the veil, the floor of the Balipita, all of them are on the same level and on the same axial line. This is only in phase 2A. In phase 2B, things had changed. So, actually the veil was not a center of worship during the first phase of activity. It was only that Garbhagraha, which we do not know what deity was therein. In the second phase of activity, the veil has become a very important object. In the third phase of activity, the veil has lost its importance, but still it is not disturbed. In the fourth phase of activity, it is just not there, but still it is not disturbed. It is still continuing to be in its place. But its importance has obviously diminished. All these, this is the second, in the second phase, the second 2B phase, you come across for grinding of lime plaster. You get saddle cairns also, the small pits which you come across for grinding lime plaster. And all the brick which was obviously available is packed. It's all broken bricks. None of them are full bricks. All this gets closed. There was a prakara wall also, but it's only portions of it have survived. And that prakara wall was completely plastered. And when you look at the analysis of the plaster of the inner Garbhagraha is very siliceous, very hard, and there is no mixture of any organic material. But the plaster of the outer areas, they have been proportionately mixed with sand and of good ratio. But it is not so when of the plaster of the Garbhagraha. Similarly, the plaster of the shore temple inner portions is again does not have any organic material mix. It has only, the calcium there is different. It is made of doleritic cyst. Here it is calcium only. But the outer plaster of the shore temple also is very fine. It has a good mixture of good proportional ratio of both lime and sand. If at all that could help us to study further. All the pillars of the second phase of activity are being used for the erection of the Mukhamantapa of the last phase of activity. I told you that Adhisthana is totally covered. Only this portion of the Adhisthana is available for the third phase of activity. And the veil is here, hardly seen. So final phase, this is how it looks, must have looked, because here again we have exposed this veil, so only so much of this, only from the veil portion, the top portion only is available during that phase. And then all the pillars have been used entire thing has been rammed, and probably one small layer of granite has been given, completely converted, and this also gets closed. We are not able to, that portion we are not able to get a clear picture. Large chunks of brick bats with lime. As soon as we started the excavation, this is how it was totally had collapsed. This is one figure which is there. This is very close to the Atirana Chanda Mantapa. This is a little further away, this portion is there. We do not know whether this is Subramanya. But this is a sandstone image. I mean Charnakite, not sandstone. And this sits perfectly on this. But when you place the hand, we are not able to place the hand here because the arms are broken. The palm we are not able to place. So finally, when you see the plan, this is the boulder, this is the Garbhagraha portion, the Ardha Mantapa comes here, this is the Maha Mantapa, the Mukha Mantapa, and then you see they are all in one axial line. This is the veil, this is the Balipita. And these are the two ring wells. This is one terracotta piece that we got. The females with a headband, the small neck ornament, their hands entwined. Only the last two figures, their hands are hanging down in a dance pose. This again gets reference in the Sangam literature as Kuruvai Kuttu. These are some very few antiquities we got. These are some two terracotta pieces that we found. But these appear to me, see, and one more thing is a little this thing. When you look at, say, later Pallava period, you get a lot of other temples of the later Pallavas, even from Nandivarman II. They're all constructed either of sandstone or sometimes even in granite. Of course, you get brick temples also in Uttarameru. But here, they continued, despite the fact it was very close to the sea, there was a lot of weathering activity. They continued to have the same brick temple, and they continued to recycle and reuse the same material. So probably it was not having royal patronage. It was only being, the locals were giving importance. Only by the time of the Cholas that it becomes a Brahmadeya village. There is a Sabha even during Nandivarman's time, because the Sabha is given the responsibility of performing the Kartikeya festival for Subramanya. That finds mention, and only during the period of in the Rajarajas and Rajendra's inscription do you come across the fact that it is a Brahmadeya village. So probably it never got the royal patronage that so many other temples have got as it is, and it was probably only for the local devotees. So it didn't get that much of even structural activity. Sort of reflects that type of a. These are some of the lamps and lampstands, some of the copper objects of worship. These are terracotta tiles. This you get number of terracotta tiles like this. These terracotta tiles are all medieval, early medieval period tiles. Then lime, most of the lime that lot of lime was found in the site itself. So I don't know from where. This is not the sea lime, no, it's a shell. So I don't know from where they could have sourced it. Even you get hearths also on the on the cloister mantapa. The two Roman coins. This Roman coin is totally defaced. This one is of Arcadius, 395 to 400 copper coin. You get Pallava coins, and this coin, there is a small legend which with great difficulty you can read Lakshita. Some of the stucco objects there. The brick size here is 40 into 20 into 7, especially only in the Garbhagriha area. Very few full bricks were recovered. Some of the terracotta pieces of the superstructure. The inscriptions, you get one inscription of Nandivarman. So that is the earliest inscription which gives reference to the place called, the port city as Mamallapuram. Before that you don't get any inscription which mentions the name Mamallapuram. Then the earliest inscription of Rashtrakuta Krishna III of his fourth regnal year, that is 960. Then you get Kampavarman's inscriptions, 2 inscriptions of Kampavarman. You get the information that is, it's the earliest reference to the Subramania temple. The earlier reference when you get in Tiruttani, it's only Aparajita 888 Velanjari plates. And even in Tiruporur Kandaswamy temple, it is Rajasimha's inscription, little earlier. So these are some of the additional information that this complex gave. This is a conjectural view which we just thought we had to do, how it might have looked. Now I have given it 3 phases of activity. The first phase is early Pallava, pre-6th century. I have based this on 2 facts. First, in the inner Garbhagriha portion, we found this Roman coin of 395-400 of Arcadius. Then some carbon samples were dated, and they also gave a date of 365 to 460. So that's why I'm just giving it pre-6th century. Then the historical period of the Pallava period where activity takes place with Rajasimha's time. Then the later period is, later Pallava is 8th to 10th century when the later Pallavas are taking. And the medieval period where the Cholas are having the final phase of activity. Actually the whole temple starts, Subramania temple, when you take the Rashtrakuta, Nandivarman's inscription, where it states that donations made for the celebration of the Kartikeya festival. Rashtrakuta inscription of Krishna III, where he gives donation of land for the temple. And the last inscription of Kulotunga III is trying to ensure that the temple is able to survive. So it's, it's totally obviously in debt or whatever. So it has been a very tricky period for this Subramania here. He's been struggling to survive till the end, from the beginning. So this is just I was wanting a big portion, early Pallava I just mentioned. So this is phase 2 of activity and phase 3 of activity. And this is the final general view one could have a look at of the whole temple complex. And with that, I thank you for giving me this opportunity once again for making this presentation. And of course, a very complex, I don't know how far I've been able to convey the activities of the temple, because I found it myself very difficult to understand.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sathyabhama Badreenath. I request...
K.R. Srinivasan had mentioned that the Tiger's Cave might have been a public place where the Indra festival could have taken place. So Indra festival is very important as far as when you look at it in Silapati Garam and all that is very important. Now again, this period is a period of flux as far as the Bhakti movement is concerned, as a result of which, and the ascendancy of Sanskritization, ascendancy of Shiva and Vishnu. So and the Pallavas were sort of tolerant to both Shiva as well as Vishnu, and by having elephant as the Vahana, actually this initially Subramania is given elephant Vahana, and this elephant is the elephant which has been presented by Indra. That's how this thing goes. Subsequently only the peacock becomes his Vahana. So that is why the elephant is there. And since the Indra festival could have been held there, then having a Subramania temple here is one more thing, it's a total flux. One has to, because you don't get much literature like how
Mr. Mohammed got for medieval period, it's not always easy to get for the earlier period. So it's very difficult. Probably a lot more work has to be done. References have to be sought for.